dedicated to the only serious choice, the gospel of Jesus Christ in music and the spoken word. And you're watching Light Source Victory Television live with me, your host, Pastor J. Stan McCauley, inviting you to sit back and relax for the next 55 minutes or so as we continue our journey into the life-changing, life-giving, everlasting word of the Most High God. My friends, it is indeed time for the most important hour of the day, Bible study. Now, of course, it is my Bible study time that I spend with you. We try to do it each and every day, Sunday through Friday, right here on accesstv.org. All right. Well, you having a good day, bad day, up day, down day? Take time out of your day for that which matters most. And that, of course, is Bible study. Silver Sergeant in the background. All right. It's been a very, very long day. Long day. A lot of technical issues today. Oh my goodness. But that's life, right? You have days where things don't always work the way you want them to. But you press on, right? That is life. Amen. On your screen, the life-changing, life-giving, everlasting word of the Most High God. We are reading out of Ecclesiastes, by the way. And you can check this out in a Bible. If you don't own one, you should. Of all the things that a human being can own, there's nothing like owning the life-changing, life-giving, everlasting word of the Most High God. Everybody should own a Bible and a cookbook. An old cookbook, not one of these newfangled cookbooks. An old cookbook that has all the old recipes. All right. Go to a Goodwill or a Salvation Army store and go to the book section and find the oldest cookbook you can find. Right before they're no longer available anywhere. All right. And that's so that you can make food to feed your natural man, and then for the spirit man, you should have one of these. All right, so you can connect with the designer and download some great spiritual information. Okay, spiritual information. This is where we were when we were last together live, and so we are live right now. And we want you to tune in and get some spiritual food. Chapter 2, verse 1 at the top of the screen. Chapter 2, verse 1 at the top of the screen. We'll pick it up right where we left off when we were last live. I said to myself, come, look. Now, these are, as you go through life, there are going to be challenges, ups, downs, right? Ins and outs. But the futility of life and why the only thing that matters in life is the relationship you have with the Creator. Let us hear the whole conclusion of the matter. Serve God, keep His commandments. That's the end of it. That's where all of this is heading, to that one place. Serve God and keep His commandments. Amen. So this explores all the things that could be done under the sun. And in the end, what remains? What matters? So we pick it up where we left off, chapter 2 of Ecclesiastes. You can get caught up by reading chapter 1 on your own. But we're going to pick it up for those of you who join us when we have new programs. All right. And I said to myself, come, let us try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in life. But I found that this, too, was meaningless. Now, this is the king of Israel who has given himself to know all that there is to know under the sun, that he might find meaning in life. And, we explore all kinds of things. People explore all kinds of things to find meaning, to find purpose, to find relevance. Where am I on the grand scheme of things, in the grand river of life? Where is my vessel? Is it a dinghy, a life raft? Is it a luxury liner, a cruise ship, a yacht? What boat are you on in the river of life? Maybe you're in a lifeboat because your grand ship sank, hit an iceberg. It's taken on water, and you're in the escape vessel, bouncing around in the sea, hoping for someone to come and rescue you. Well, that's kind of how life is, and so we are charting the waters of life, trying to find meaning. And so the teacher, the king here, who had the power, the authority, the wealth, the resources, gave himself to know all that there is to know in life. And so now we are allowed to see with him and experience those things. So he says, look, he says, come on, let's try pleasure. Now, pleasure is a funny thing because, pleasure is as fleeting as a great meal. You eat a good meal and then what? You need to eat again, right? It would be great. Wouldn't it be just fabulous if you ate a meal and at the end of that, you're satisfied, never had to eat again? One meal to rule all meals, right? So you have this one meal, you eat, and you're good. You're good. You never have to eat again. But that's not the case. A whole lot of people last Thursday, had a grand meal. 1 week ago today, people were in their kitchens cooking. Aunties, mamas, grannies, grandpas, uncles cooking for the grand meal that was going to be served the next day. Right? And in this celebration of thanks that we have here in the United States, Thanksgiving, right? So you all have eaten since that Thursday, I'm sure, right? Because as grand a meal as it was an experience that was enjoyed and then it was gone, right? Same can be said about pleasure. Pleasure is fleeting. It was fun while it lasted. Now what? So if you give yourself to know pleasure and find meaning in pleasure, then what happens when the pleasure is gone? The old pleasure principle. All right. And the funny thing about pleasure is, if it was good now, then you need a better pleasure than you had before. It's just unsustainable. It's unsustainable. And it's most unfulfilling, most unsatisfying. Right? And I don't care what it is that brings about the pleasure. Whatever it is, when it's over, you're left with a sense of meaninglessness. Right? But I found that this too was meaningless. So I said, verse 2, top of the screen, you're watching Light Source Victory Television Live. I am your host, J.C. McCauley. We got another live broadcast off to a late start due to reasons which we will not go into, but we're here, right? Those of you who watch this on the repeat, watching it at the regular time, but for the live broadcast audience, we're about an hour late. So I said, laughter is silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? Right? What good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to cheer myself with wine. And still Seeking wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. All right, so he's trying to understand and know and experience all the things that could be enjoyed under the sun. Riches. He's going to go in. We're going to go through this whole thing and all of the stuff that he endeavors to know. All right. It's like you want to know what it is to see the world, so you join the Peace Corps, and it's all exciting in the beginning, and then finally, when it's all said and done, then what? Or maybe you join the military, and then when it's all said and done, then what? Or you join the clandestine services, and then when it's all said and done, then what? Now you got to hide for the rest of your life, scared of all the things you've done, right? Exploring. There's a certain truth to, you can't know what you don't experience. And for some people, studying the experience is not quite the same as experiencing the experience. It's one thing to have empathy for the homeless. It's another thing to spend a winter under the bridge. Right? So a lot of people who have empathy and want to do good for the homeless have never been homeless. They've never been homeless. They've never been homeless. I had a good friend of mine tell me once, I won't mention their name. I had a good friend of mine tell me, because I at one time in my life, I had a little issue trying to get my little rent money up. And I said, I might have to move because, the rent is too high. This is not good. He says, move. I says, yeah. He says, look, until you spend the night with your family in a homeless shelter, you don't know what it is. All right, so you don't have trials or trouble or tribulation trying to deal with this little issue you have. You're not down on your luck and in bad times until you spend a couple of nights in the homeless shelter with your family because you've hit rock bottom. Now, you see, it's one thing to have empathy, it's another thing to have been there. All right. There are some actors who in order to get their head in the space of the character, they go out and they try and live that kind of a sense so that they can portray that role as best that they can. All right. So, think of it kind of like that. He's giving himself to understand these things, because remember who he is. He's the king. He's the king of Israel. He is greater, smarter, wiser, wealthier than all the kings that had come before him. And so, when you're the king, living life down at the bottom is, you don't make your own food. You're lucky if you wipe your own behind, right? I mean, the king lives good. Everything is done for the king. What the king wants, he gets. And remember, the kings of old aren't like the kings of today. The king was like in the United States, we have three branches of government. You have the judicial branch, you have the legislative branch, and you have the executive branch. The judicial branch is the branch that does, all of the law type stuff. The legislative branch is the branch that creates the laws. The judicial branch decides whether or not you've broken the law and what the penalty therefore should be. And then the executive branch, it is the branch that runs stuff. All right, but the king is all three. So the king need only speak. He is the law. He is the law. His word is law. So the king speaks, and it is. Thus and such it shall be. The lands between the river Y and the river Z shall be deemed useful for the king and the king alone. Let the edict go forth, and that all should know that all livestock, all living stock, all water, all trees, fruit-bearing trees and non-fruit-bearing trees alike, are now the official property of the king. All who find residence there must leave post haste under pain of death. Thy excellency, thy will be done. And off they go. That's it. That's the king. So understand, when the king set out to know these things and says that he stopped at nothing, then he stopped at nothing. All right. And he didn't hold back from anything. All right. So when we talk about pleasure, roll out the full scale of whatever you think was pleasure, whatever's pleasurable to you. All right. And people you know, and then add a couple of extras on there. Right. The king gave himself to know all of that. He gave himself to know what? Foolishness, folly, getting drunk. You know, for a lot of people, to get high or tipsy is the most they will experience when it comes to happiness, right? A sense of departure from reality. But that too, he explains, is vanity and vexation of spirit. It leaves you empty, unfulfilled, right? Because remember what the whole duty of man is, which is pointed out at the very end of this, because that's where it's going: to serve God and keep his commandments. All right. So the only thing that is actually truly filling is to be walking in God's purpose for your life. Amen. Amen. Verse 4, top of the screen. I also tried finding meaning in building huge homes for myself and by planting beautiful vineyards. Wow. How about that? You know, this is something that those with enormous wealth do very well. They have several homes. I mean, after all, you've made it to the big time, right? And you clawed your way to success. You've become a corporate titan, an entertainment mogul, a superstar on the silver screen, a superstar on stage. You have the voice of angels, archangels, and thus you sing your way into fandom. And along with that comes enormous money. Maybe you invented a computer or something like that, and it brought forth enormous money. Or you wrote a software package that everyone uses, and it brings forth enormous money. You got all this money, and so now what? Is there anything that you can't get with your money? So, hey, why not buy some houses, right? So you build a house. The first house costs $1.1 million. $1.1 million house. You're driving down the street and look over there. There's a guy got a house for $3 million. Oh, my little rinky-dink house for $1 million. What? I feel left out. I feel unfulfilled, right? So you design a house that's spectacular, second to none. You'd pump $8 or $9 million into it. You can see where this ends. It doesn't. It doesn't. You go on vacation to Europe, you see these castles sitting up on the hill. You don't have a castle. All right. So, hey, why not make a castle for yourself? You live in the United States. Have that castle transplanted from there to your country, stone by stone. And then what? It's left you unfulfilled. Right? Meaningless and vexation of spirit. Meaningless and vexation of spirit. So he built huge homes. He planted beautiful vineyards. And remember who he is. He's the king. He made gardens and parks, filling them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect the water to irrigate my many flourishing groves. All right. He's doing all of this in an effort to find meaning in life. The desire to find meaning in life. Verse 7. There's nothing more empowering than to have ownership of other human beings. I bought slaves, both men and women, and others were born into my household. So this little experiment of his is going on for quite some time. He bought slaves, women and men, and then slaves were born into his household. Born. Not only did he have slaves, servants, men servants, women servants to do whatever he wanted, whatever his bidding were. There were those that were over the course of time born into the house. They were born into servitude to the king. So that gives you power. There's nothing like power. People have power over their pets. I've seen people treat pets so horribly. They shouldn't be allowed to have pets. Right? They treat pets horribly because they have the authority to do whatever they want to the pet. Mean to the pet. They talk to the pet in a mean way, in a cantankerous voice. I said, sit down, stupid dog. I mean, just horrible. All right? And they treat people like that too. But see, people will push back. Pets, nice thing about dog will love you always. No matter what you do to the dog just loves on you, right? But there's no greater power than to have power over people, over other human beings, to command them to do what you want and to be able to punish them on pain of death if they don't do what you tell them to do. Right? They're yours. They're total subjects. That's one thing to have subjects that adore and admire you. It's a total another thing to just have total command over this other human being. A slave is someone who has ownership of nothing. They own nothing. Nothing. They don't even own themselves. All right. It's like being a super, super duper high priced slave. Let's say like a rock star. And the company owns you. I mean, you were like a huge megastar or a mega athlete. And the team owns you or the corporation owns you to the degree they own your image, your name, all right? The alter ego, the alter personality that's been constructed, that gets marketed. And then they even have life insurance on you in the millions because, of course, you're worth millions. So if you should mysteriously up and die, the company makes money off of the insurance that they have on you. Bought and paid for. All right, all of the resources and money that now you getting a fair share, but your share doesn't even begin to compare or scratch the surface to what the organization that owns you makes. All right, well, that's what slave is someone who gets no benefit. All right, now in my little scenario of the high-priced entertainer, their money is, at least they have something, but the slave. Everything they do, everything they produce is owned by the master. That's power. That's power. That's power. Ownership over other human beings and what they produce. That's power. He had slaves. He bought them. He had slaves, men and women. He also owned large herds and flocks, more than any of the kings who had lived in Jerusalem before him. King of Jerusalem. Wealthier, wiser, smarter, faster. Large herds, large flocks, all his. He owned them. He didn't have like oversight. He owned them. The realm belonged to the king. And all that the eye can see is his realm, and he has ownership. So you are allowed to live on his land, and he is the Lord of it. It's his. And his slaves could tend to the flock. Better not eat any of them, right? Any of the flock, right? But in all of this, no pleasure, no meaning, nothing that is sustaining, All right. So all the things that human beings endeavor to do ultimately bring no meaning. They bring no sustaining, no purpose. That's what he's talking about. Now, I've never owned any human beings. I've never had enormous wealth. None of these things. I don't have a multitude of houses. I don't have a lot of land. I don't have any land. Okay, so but there are people that do. And from beginning to end, this touches the lives of every human being on the planet. Verse 8, it goes on, it says, he collected great sums of silver and gold, the treasure of many kings and provinces. All right. So he would take from other kings their gold, or there would be a tax or a tribute. So he's either plundering gold and silver from others, or others are bringing him tribute of gold and silver, right? I collected great sums of silver and gold, the treasure of many kings and provinces. I hired wonderful singers, both men and women, and had many beautiful concubines. All right, so the concubine, of course, is sub-wife. Right? The wife, there are legal obligations to the wife. There's also obligations to the concubine. But the concubine is not like a full-fledged wife. So imagine having wives and then concubines. So every woman he saw he would have, period. Let's just keep it plain, right? Whatever he wanted, he took. Right? Someone in the lower part of Jerusalem, someone over in the west side of Jerusalem, somebody back on the east side of Jerusalem, and then someone over on the East Palace. And then if you're out visiting one of the kingdoms or a little land, you're over there to get some, gold or silver from somebody. Might have a little relationship with that person over there. They become a concubine. I like you, you cute little young thing. Why don't you come along with me, right? So he's given himself to know everything. When we talk about he gave himself to know all that there was to know under the sun, that's exactly what it means. Everything. Everything. He had many concubines. Right? And I would imagine in the best case scenario of concubine, you have a dynamic of sense of ownership, loss of attention that many women are known to possess, a sense of, little bit of, harbored feelings when there's someone else around, right? And, he had to deal with that. And you have how many wives and how many concubines? You sound like someone that lost their natural mind. You get stabbed up in the night by one of your wives or the concubines, right? People get attitudes. Put some flesh and blood on this. Even though things might have been a little bit different then, human beings are still the same. When you have something that you believe is yours and someone else comes along and want to dabble with it or take it away from you, people get tight. They get tight. Tight, the sense of loss, the sense of I'm not going to have something that I think is mine. It brings out not necessarily the best attributes of people. You watch how people act when they think something that belongs to them is threatened. That's what happened when Cain killed his brother Abel. He thought Abel was going to get entrance into the garden. So he killed him. He just killed him. It's just Kim said a biblical side chick. Yes. Several biblical side chicks, okay? That's one way to look at it. right? The quote unquote main chick. Not happy about the side chick. You find out you got 6 or 7 of them. Are you? Now let's put some flesh and blood on this, right? And keep it real. All right. So he had many, not one or two, many beautiful concubines. I had everything a man could desire with an exclamation mark, right? Exclamation point. I had everything a man could desire. So I became greater than all who had lived in Jerusalem before me, and my wisdom never failed me. Now, this is interesting. His wisdom remained even though he did things that were unseemly and would stretch the imagination that one would be able to maintain one's wisdom. So your wisdom remains with you, right? Through it all. The wisdom of God remained with him, right? His wisdom remained. It never failed him. Verse 10, chapter 2, Ecclesiastes. Anything I wanted, I would ask for. No. Words mean things. Anything I wanted, I would take. I take it. Mine. I want. So he took. Just take it. Take. Mine. Right? The Song of Solomon, he is out and he's out and about, and there's a young maiden, and she's betrothed to another man. When the king sees her and decides, I'm going to take her. And he takes her. And she pleads with him that I am my beloved's. Solomon lets her go in the end. Nothing happens. He lets her go. But he at least he thought he was in love with her. I would imagine he tried to run that down on every woman he'd come across. I mean, after all, he's the king. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. Whatever he wanted, he did. Now, this is significant as we apply these things to life today. There's a lot of things people want to do, a lot of things people want to partake in, be part of. In the end, to what avail? Right? God understands all the trials, tribulations, wants, appetites, passions, and desires that you have. He fully understands. The question isn't whether or not you have wants, appetites, passions, and desires that may be outside of God's will. The question is, are you willing to be submissive to his will? Right? It isn't about whether or not some other person sanctions what you do. Who cares what other people think? It matters very little what other people think. What should matter is what God thinks. Because the whole duty of man, the whole purpose of man is to serve God and keep his commandments. You know, there are very few people who believe we wound up just being amoebas in the water that boiled out of the chemical composition of sulfur and the magma that flows from the earth, and it just happened to hit the water in the right way, and out from the water comes an amoeba, and the amoeba splits and becomes a monkey, and the monkey refines himself and becomes the sultan of a Middle Eastern mega family with tremendous wealth because of their oil in the ground. I mean, that generally doesn't happen. Monkeys swinging from trees one day say, there got to be a better way to get around. Let me try. See if I can invent me a wheel and then a car. No, very few people really buy into that. They believe we came from something. All right. The complexity of what human beings are. The complexity of what is out there in terms of living creatures. That's design. Someone, somebody, something designed what's here on earth. And whatever it is, whoever it is far greater than us. So just assume or imagine just for a hot second that individual has a plan for your life. That you're actually that important. You are. Because remember, there are hundreds of thousands of living beings on the earth. Flies, gnats, moths, butterflies, human beings, primates, giraffes, whales, sharks, goldfish, guppies. I mean, we don't have time to list all of the known creatures, which just so happen to produce exact replicates, if you will, of themselves after their own kind. And that there's like a male and a female. Think about that. A male and a female. Okay. So the design of one creature that comes out of the sea and becomes something, if you really want to push that, okay. But why are there hundreds of thousands of different species? And then add to that a male species and a female species. And then add to that, if they come together, the female of the species gives birth to another one of them after their own kind. And they give birth to another one that is a unique combination of the two. Whether it's a giraffe, whether it's a monkey, whether it's a gorilla or an orangutan, right? Or a snow monkey or a snow ape or a bear or a polar bear or a northern bear. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Each bearing fruit after its own kind. Trees, apple trees, pear trees, all bearing fruit after its own kind. That's design. That's a design. That's like walking downtown in your city and just look at the buildings made out of the cement and figure out that's like someone taking a bucket of sand, throwing it up in the air, and it just lands as the Sears Tower. Oh, it just happened to fall together, every grain, and as it was coming down through the air, it superheated and it turned into iron, and the iron just happened to freeze up in specially designed alloys that would support the weight of a tall building, and then the rivets happened to just fall into place. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. You look at a city and clearly it was designed by somebody. It didn't just grow out of the ground. A designer designed man. A designer designed man. For the sake of our discussion, that would be the creator or God, right? And so God's plan for humanity is that he would have fellowship with humanity. But humanity doesn't see fellowship with God as being sufficient. So they're looking for something else. So in our instance here, he is saying, look, pleasure isn't it. To live your life only to satisfy your wants, appetites, passions, and desires. I'm here to tell you, I'll debate anybody on the subject, you will be found wanting, lacking. It's not fulfilling or sustainable. Right? Anything I want, verse 10, Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work and in reward for all my labor. That's pretty cool. I know people who work hard. I know carpenters, people who work in the trades, artists, inventors, composers. People sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, or they look at their fingers and they look at keys on a piano and they start to play something, right? Or they draw a picture onto a piece of paper or paint on a canvas, and they work and they create something. Others build buildings. They take stuff and turn it into a Sears Tower, right? They create, and that's hard work. The people who in the city where I'm from, Hartford, Connecticut, the tradesmen and women that built the Yard Goat Stadium, or one of the schools in the city of Hartford that the children learn in, and they can drive past those buildings and say, I built that. I built that building. I built that building. You see the roof in here? I put that roof up. You see the acoustic tiles? I installed those acoustic tiles. All right? You hear that sound system? I installed that sound system. You see the fire alarm at Weaver? Oh, let me leave that alone. Right? Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I found great pleasure in hard work and a reward for all my labors. So when you do hard work, you get something in return for it. Your labor produced something. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. How sad it would be to build something and you go by it another day and it's all burned down to the ground, it's gone. Or people just let it depreciate. See, you work hard, and then after you've done that, then it's like other things. Anything that brings you a sense of completion and pleasure and something fulfilled is fleeting. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Or you were engaged in the enterprise or in the work, and now it's gone. It's not everlasting. It's not everlasting. You were created to be an everlasting being in union with the Creator. The separation came because of Adam's disobedience in the garden. But the initial intent of humanity is to spend that in fellowship with the Creator. So until one gets realigned with the Creator, there's going to be a sense of emptiness. All right? So I decided to compare wisdom with foolishness and madness. For who can do this better than I? The King. Oh, wow, now you're really stretching it, huh? So I think I'll give myself to know foolishness and madness. I'm just going to go straight out monkey and just be dumb. Stupid dumb. Dumb with a double D, right? And stupid with a triple S. Stupid dumb. I'm going to do things so foolish that only the King can get away with it. Right? I think I'll go to the ball with no clothes and challenge anyone to say the King has no clothes. Do you like my new outfit? Your Highness, I love it. Who did the design? I did the design myself. Don't you think it's challenging? Oh, yes, Your Highness. Where can I buy one? This is only the robe for the King. No one else shall wear my clothes, and neither shall I. Right? I mean, just off the dome, foolish, right? He gave himself to know foolishness. So I decided to compare wisdom with foolishness and madness. Verse 13, I thought wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. Well, that would seem obvious, but you can't trust what's obvious. You got to experiment and try it out for yourself. A lot of people do these things. You know, it is foolish to put a line of white powder into your nostrils to get into the lung, right? It is foolish to smoke thing that is hot and put the hot gases in your lung, particularly if it's got a little fentanyl on it, right? So you don't know what's on it. But in a search for meaning and relevance and joy, we try foolishness, right? Sometimes foolishness might seem okay for a little while, but then it catches up with you, right? Right? Kind of foolish to start smoking cigarettes at the age of 10, sneaking out behind a barn, sneaking down into the basement of wherever it is you live, going into the hallway and engaging in things that you ain't got no business to do because you're not married to the young girl. You're only 13 years old, right? But you know, a lot of stuff go on in school. Then folk want to know why so-and-so done shot somebody at school because he was messing around with her and she was messing around with him. Now we have an incident because folk were acting foolish, thinking somehow, some way, it might turn out to be something that was meaningful. But no meaning, just foolishness. I thought wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. For the wise can see where they are going, but fools walk in the dark. Right? It's foolish to go walk around on the mountainside where there are cliffs in the dark. That would be foolish. It would be better to wait until the daytime. But let us not discount folly and foolishness. It's madness. Madness. Would you run through the forest in the dark? You don't know what's on the ground. That's foolish. It's foolish. Foolish. The wise can see where they are going. The fool walks in the dark. Yet I saw that the wise and the fool suffer the same fate. Both will die. So I said to myself, since I will end up the same as the fool, what's the value of all my wisdom? This also is meaningless. For the wise and the foolish both die. Verse 16, top of the screen. You're watching Lights Switch Victory Television Live. I'm your host, J.C. McCauley. The wise will not be remembered any longer than the fool. In the days to come, both will be forgotten. Right? Just like that. What emptiness it brings to he who is wise to know that he is on the same level and plane of the most foolish person that he had ever met. All right. Here is this woman, the wisest woman on the planet, who will suffer the same fate as the dumbest man. Where is the justice in that? There is none. Right? Because all seek to bring meaning to a life that's not designed to be in that kind of relationship where things have ultimate meaning. You're meant to be in league and harmony with the Creator. Right? Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. If you walk in the way of the Lord, keeping his commandments, guess what? Everything starts having relevance. Everything starts having meaning. Things start having purpose. You have purpose. The purpose is to do the will of the Lord. God's will and purpose for you will always leave you satisfied. It will always leave you fulfilled. You will never wake up in the morning questioning why you're here. You will never go to bed at night wondering what happened today of any value. I just wasted a whole day of my life. You'll never, ever have that feeling because, of course, you're walking in obedience and God's will is being expressed through the things you do, right? As you walk in obedience to the Lord, not other people, but to the Lord, right? Other than that, it doesn't matter whether you're wise or foolish because in the end, it's appointed unto man once to die and after that, the judgment. Verse 17. So I came to hate life. See where this goes? See where this goes? Because I know people who are caught up in all of these things. Then the person becomes hateful and bitter. After all the good I've done, this is all I get out. Don't see, you did it for the wrong reason. Do it because it's something you love to do. Don't do it because so-and-so is going to do this, that, and the third for you. After all I've done for the community, this is how the community treats me. No. You presented an option for the community. The community exercised its desire to use the option. You turned yourself into a commodity, into a utility that they needed, right? You have food, community's hungry. You got free food, the supermarket's charging a price. Why shouldn't I come to you? You're giving it away. If you stop giving it away, they'll go somewhere else. It's not personal. They're hungry. They don't owe you anything because you were feeding them food. Now, you weren't doing it for the right reason. You were doing it because you wanted accolades from the community. The community is hungry. They don't owe you accolades. They don't owe you anything. You're giving it away. Do you write the president of Whole Foods? Do you write the president of Save More or Save a Lot? All right, or C-Town or Stop and Shop, right? Or Acme Markets, right? Do you write the president and CEO of the company say, thank God for you all? I mean, whatever I can do to repay the fact that, I bought a whole bag of groceries for $100. I mean, with inflation being what it is, I'm so thankful to you all that it wasn't $200. How can I ever repay your kindness for stocking the shelves full of the canned goods that I need? I bought a whole bag of bagels for $5 and another loaf of bread for $5. So for $10, I had enough to help feed my little children. And I'm so thankful to you, Stop and Shop. It's time to stop and shop right now. You don't think twice about it. It's a place that you went to buy food. If they close, you'll go to the one down the street. Right? 3 of the 99s closed. There's a restaurant here in the greater Connecticut area, and they have other assets around the place. But 3 of them closed unexpectedly today. No explanation, no nothing. There's still some around, but the 3 of them just done. They're done, closed. I'm sure that really impacts the employees in a horrible way. But the patrons, if they really like the 99's food, they'll go to another one. Or maybe they'll go to Joey Garlic's, or maybe they'll go to Lily's in Windsor, or they'll go out to the Texas Roadhouse after they closed the one here in Hartford and moved it out there to Manchester, right? They did that to one in Hartford, right? Christmas Eve, somewhere around there. And folk went to work. The place was all chained up. Done. Right? So what did people do? People that like Texas Roadhouse? Oh, well. And they went to the new one in Manchester. They didn't write the company in protest. They went to where it was. You're offering the food is free, so they take. Now you're upset because you feel disrespected for all the hard work you've done on their behalf. So the chances are you were doing that because you were going to get you feel good. So you got paid in full. The feel good was that's the reward. The feel good. All right. But what happens is people get bitter. They get angry. After all I've done, this is what they do to repay. And then they retreat and they get solemn, and then they don't want to help no one else anymore. I'm done helping people. Right? People don't appreciate. Well, then why? Then the motivation for helping them was wrong from the jump. From the jump. All right. So I came to hate life because everything done here under the sun is so troubling. Everything is meaningless, like chasing the wind. All right. If you're looking for meaning in any of the things that the king has talked about here, you will find yourself in that same state of mind. Verse 18 at the top of your screen. 18. There we go. I came to hate all my hard work here on earth. See, he once got pleasure out of it. Now he hates it. Hate. How's the new job coming? Man, I love my new job. I mean, I feel so fulfilled at the end of the day of all the work I do. 3 months later, how's it? I hate that place. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I can't wait to leave. I'm going to quit. Well, I thought you loved the job. Well, I did in the beginning, but now, I just feel empty. Well, yeah. That's the general life cycle. Right. You're not gonna, your job's not going to cut the mustard. All right. It's not going to cut the mustard. I came to hate all my hard work here on earth, for I must leave it to others, right? I must leave to others everything I have earned. Wow. That really rubs people the wrong way. All right, now you worked 60 years to build an enormous pile of wealth, and now that you are, 82, right? You started working at 22 years old. And you worked 60 years to build an empire. And it occurs to you that as time presses on, the days ahead of you are far less than the ones behind. And now you start thinking about this empire. And you look at your children, or as some might call them, the cheering, or the cheering. You look at your children and you say to yourself, wow, I don't know. That one ain't too bright. I don't know if I want to leave everything to him. I would leave it to her, but then that one over there will get mad because they don't think that their sister is worth a position of leadership of the family trust in the empire, and they'll probably bite and devour one another after I leave. And so, now what? This is real. This is real. Okay? Families grow apart in the course of time because people's, wants, appetites, passions, and desires differentiate from when they was kids. And then mom always liked you more, and dad always did this for you, and you always thought you was special. People get ugly. Oh, goodness me. Funerals can be horrible things to be attendants. All right, all the long knives come out, and then afterwards, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, all of the family drama starts surfacing. And then don't let there be any money involved. Oh, my stars. Right? So, who's going to get dad's money? Who's going to get mom's money? Nothing like a little money to help bring a family together, right? Yeah. So now he hates all that he has done on earth. People don't appreciate it. And then he has to leave it to someone else. I must leave to others everything I've earned. Everything I have earned. Everything that I built, I have to leave to someone else. And who can tell whether my successors will be wise or foolish? Remember, he had just come off of a little, sabbatical from wisdom and explored foolishness and folly. Now, how do I know that someone that I leave my stuff to doesn't go camp out in the village of the fools? All the stuff I leave them, they squander. Give it away to people who are lessers than themselves, right? You know how people get. Right? There's always a lesser class for people to look at. All right. Even the lessers have lessers that they look down upon. Oh, those people aren't good people. Right? I'm just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. Everyone has a class of lessers. Now, they may not share that with you, but trust me when I tell you, there's a class of lessers. All right. And for many people, the lessers are actually better. So they despise the betters as much as the betters despise the lessers, because they think that the betters think they're better than them. It's just human nature. It's the way of men, right? It's the way of human beings that are out of sync with the Creator. See, when you're in sync with the Creator, all that stuff goes away. The Bible says if you say you love God and hate your brother, then then God is not in you. The love of God is not in you. You cannot hate someone that Jesus died on the cross for. Right? Because greater is he that's in you than he that is in the world. So if you can express hate for someone else, particularly someone overtaken in a sin, then he who died on the cross of Calvary to pay the price for their sin is not being allowed to manifest himself in your life. We'll leave it at we'll soften it a little bit, right? So if you see someone's overtaken in a particular attitude or a particular behavior or it's whatever it is, whatever shortcoming that you see them are partaking in, and you hate them because of that, then you have all the wherewithal that's necessary to help restore them. The Bible says, if you see a brother or a sister overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one, considering who? Thine own self. Lest thou also be overtaken in a sin or a fault that is common to you or to me, right? I'm not judging nobody. I'm not in a position to judge nobody. I got my own stuff to worry about. The last thing I need to do is heap to myself extra for hating someone else, looking for a beam in their eye, and the mote in their eye when I have a beam in my own. My charge is not to walk someone else's walk. My charge is to walk the walk that God has before me, and in doing so, hopefully, I will be an example to those who are looking to do the same thing. Don't walk my path. Walk your path in obedience to the Lord. There's nothing that says be like me. It says submit and allow the Holy Spirit to order your footsteps. Then you'll start to manifest the glory of God in everything you do. Not the glory of the quote unquote church, right? Or the glory of the denomination, or the glory of the district elder, or the presbyter, or the pastor, or the co-pastor, the pastor's wife, the first deacon, deacon board, elder, right? The overseer, the district overseer, the reverend mother, the bishop, archbishop, the pope, cardinals, all these titles that people put on themselves. In every religion, of which there's 4,000, God's not interested in your religion. He's interested in a relationship with you. Don't allow Satan to pull you away from God by your religion, right? Caught up in endless genealogies about whose bloodline is whose bloodline, right? right? We walk by faith and not by sight. And without faith, it's impossible to please him. You have to choose to submit and follow the Lord. Other than that, all have sinned and come short of his glory. But I digress. Who can tell whether my successor will be wise or foolish? Yet they will control everything I have gained by my skill and hard work under the sun. How meaningless, right? How empty, how void. This is vanity and vexation of spirit. Verse 20. So I gave up in despair. Oh, this is just horrible. So I gave up in despair, questioning the value of all my hard work in this world. So some people work wisely with knowledge and skill, then must leave the fruit of their efforts to someone who hasn't worked for it. This too is meaningless and a great tragedy. Wow. Isn't that something? You can leave everything you have to someone. It's like you worked your whole life to give it to someone who doesn't deserve it and will never lift a finger to even maintain what you give them. That is quite tragic. So what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is also meaningless. All right? A lot of people lay in the bed and they can't go to sleep. They tussle, they turn, they toss. They can't go to sleep. Count sheep, wolves, everything else. Right? Smoke a little of this, smoke a little of that, do a line of this, do a line of that. Pop this pill, that pill. Hopefully they get to sleep and they oversleep, can't get up in the morning. Need to take something else. All of this anxiety, all of this angst because they won't serve God and keep his commandments. So, being disobedient, being out of sync with the Creator creates this kind of chaos in the life. Trying to find meaning where there is no meaning. Professing themselves to be wise, right? They deny the only true and living God that there is. All right? That's ultimately what happens. So now, if there's no God, how do I find meaning in my life? I have a relationship with somebody or something or whatever, a pencil, a paper, whatever, and then I find meaning for making something or getting high or digging a ditch or building a house or growing fruit, feeding the homeless and the hungry, suffering like others suffer so that they can see that I'm willing to suffer just like they suffer, and I'll send out virtue signals so everybody will know that I'm all right. Even though I am filthy rich, I'm going to be all right because I suffer like you suffer. All these things that people do when all they need to do is call on the name of the Lord and submit. Be willing to walk by faith, not by sight. God will use you in a wonderful way, and you will be fulfilled. And you will have meaning and purpose in your life. That's the word. Their days are filled with labor. Right? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is all meaningless. So I decided there is nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and find satisfaction in work. Then I realized that these pleasures are from the hand of God. Amen. Amen. 4, who can eat or enjoy anything apart from him? God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God takes the wealth away and gives it to those who please him. This too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. The King James reads like this: For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he gives travail, to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. All is vanity, right? Vanity of vanities. All is vanity and vexation of spirit. My friends, only what you do for the Lord will last. All right? Serve God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. My friends, our time together has come to an end, as it does each and every time we're on the air. Remember, when it's all said and done, the only thing you need to know is this fact, and that is, of course, that Jesus Christ is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. He alone saves and changes lives. Won't you call on his name today? Allow him to be Lord of your life. Listen to the words as we go out. Let it minister to your soul. This is not entertainment. This is the wisdom of the Lord set to song as he gives interpretation in the words to inspired musicians and writers. The name of the song is Serious by the group Kingdom, and the musical genius of Grammy award-winning producer Ronnie's song. God bless you all. Keep you strong in the faith. And remember, when it's all said and done, the only thing you need to know is this fact, and that is, of course, that Jesus Christ is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. He alone saves and changes lives. Good night.